Brianna Chavez.
All right, Brianna, thank you very much. A lot of residents describing last night as tense. It was sleepless for many as all that rain came falling down. They knew something was happening. Some could see it, but I'll tell you what, as the sun began to rise, that's when you really saw the damage. And today, that's when the cleanup began. Ladd Egan covering that part of the story for us tonight. He continues our team coverage tonight. Ladd?
Yeah, Mike, last night the residents inside these townhomes, they looked outside and they saw a waterfall coming down over this multi-tiered retaining wall, and all that water, mud, and debris needed to go somewhere, and that somewhere was down into the basements. In fact, this right here, this is a window well, but you can see the grate here completely covered by this mud and debris. The force of the water shattering the windows, letting the water pour inside. Residents say there was nothing they could do to stop the floodwaters. This home's basement filled with more than 2 feet.
I've never seen anything like it. The storm came down so fast, and I went around the corner, and then I saw, my theater chairs were floating, and my futon was floating, and then I saw in the guest bedroom downstairs, the mattress was at the front of the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Donovan Ramsey took this cell phone video of those initial moments as that water was rushing in. He was able to grab this basketball in a display case. It's signed by Magic Johnson, and he was glad he was able to save it. He then quickly got out of the basement, worried about the danger from electricity. He's already heard that this damage is not covered by his homeowner's insurance policy, and he's paid $10,000 for the initial cleanup, and he says it will be much more than that to do all the repairs. And so it was a tense, sleepless night for these residents. The firefighters and inspectors came by to look at this wall after all the water came pouring down. They were given the green light to sleep here last night, but they say they are waiting for some additional assurances about how this wall is doing. Mike, I'll send it back to you.
Ladd, it is incredible when you think about how quickly that storm came in. It dumped things, and then the amount of damage done in such a short period of time. Ladd, thank you for seeing out here. Draper residents described last night as tense. Many of them did not sleep as a lot of this water was making their way into the homes. Today, it was a ton of cleanup. Ladd Egan, join us right now with more on that part of the story.
Yeah, last night the residents inside these townhomes, they looked outside to see a waterfall coming down over this multi-tiered retaining wall, and all that mud, water, and debris had to go somewhere, and that somewhere was right into the basements. In fact, this is a window well right here. You can see the grate totally covered with mud here.
The amount of water that fell I've never seen rain like that.
The force of the water shattered the 3 windows in Donovan Ramsey's basement.
And the blinds was just flapping, and all the water is just pouring in.
He says there was nothing he could do to stop the floodwaters as his basement filled with more than 2 feet of water.
I've never seen anything like it. The storm came down so fast, and I went around the corner, and then I saw, my theater chairs were floating, and my futon was floating, and then I saw in the guest bedroom downstairs, the mattress was at the front of the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Ramsey took this cell phone video of those initial moments of the water rushing in. He was able to grab this basketball in a display case that's signed by Magic Johnson. He then quickly got out of the basement as he was worried about the danger from electricity. He's already paid $10,000 for the initial cleanup and says it will be much more than that to do all the repairs.
A very stressful, sleepless night.
And Ramsey says that he's already heard that the damage is not covered by his homeowner's insurance policy. Now he's checking to see if the HOA's insurance could help, but he says it's not looking promising. Reporting in Draper, Ladd Egan, KSL-5 News.
Ladd, thank you. And yeah, Draper City declaring a state of emergency as well. Andrew, thank you.
A gifted swindler and a dangerous predator. Those are the words women used to describe a Utah County man in court today for sentencing.
Nate Holzefeld admitted to fraud and sexual misconduct in a deal meant to keep him out of prison and off the sex offender registry.
As part of our Failure to Protect series, KSL investigator Daniela Rivera examines that deal and the surprise move by the judge to overwrite it.
Unfortunately, the way this system works is that you do get a little bit hung before you're even tried. Innocent until proven guilty in America. and in part, thanks to KSL.
Well, you pleaded guilty.
That's what 44-year-old Nate Hulseful had to say as he walked into a Utah County courtroom expecting to walk back out a free man after his sentencing. The former Shark Tank contestant was charged with scamming women he met on dating apps out of hundreds of thousands of dollars and sexually abusing some of his victims. In a plea deal, Hulseful agreed to pay some of the money back and spend 4 years on probation. That deal also included this clause, saying if the court rejected the deal, Hulseful could withdraw his guilty pleas.
We were not happy with the plea negotiations that were going on.
He traded money for justice.
One after another, survivors in the case shared how Hulseful's crimes impacted them and asked the court to protect others.
He's not on the registry. He absolutely should be on the registry. That's disappointing.
Prosecutor Pete Reichman says these are the best terms the state could get the defense to agree to, and just one more similar conviction will land him on the sex offender registry.
Yeah, it was a good deal for him, but there was a lot left on the table as far as potential consequences for him in the future, which is what we have to play the long game.
I really do feel sorry for everybody who's so upset over things, and I can understand why.
In a surprising move, Judge Thomas Lowe said the deal contradicts Utah law.
The court's indicating that it's not going to follow the recommendation as presented, then Mr. Hulseful has a right to withdraw his guilty pleas.
He does not have a right to withdraw his guilty pleas.
Lowe sentenced Hulseful to serve 1 to 15 years in prison, calling his crimes treachery and abuse with shocking, life-altering impacts to the women he preyed on. KSL spoke with longtime defense attorney Greg Skordas, who says that decision is sure to be reviewed by a higher court.
Well, if he's in custody, you would expect that his lawyers would work very quickly and get an appeal filed and get something before the Court of Appeals as soon as possible.
But for now,
I am thrilled about the outcome today.
survivors in the case say they finally feel heard.
That man is now going to prison, and that was not the case this morning, as he's in cuffs, and I am finally free.
One of the survivors told us despite asking, she was not provided a victim advocate and wasn't notified about important hearings in this case. And Skordas says in Utah, victims have a right to be notified about hearings. Mike and Dini.
Wow, what a day. Okay, Daniela, thank you.
What a day indeed. Tonight,